Hello everyone, which way? I'm Rodney, and I am here with my best friend Pauline, to explain Indigenous Australians. How are you on such a fine day, Pauline?
I am great, thank you, Rodney. Just letting you know that I am an Indigenous Australian, and it is okay to be white.
Yes, Pauline, it is okay to be white, but has nothing to do with being an Indigenous Australian. You're correct, you're an Indigenous Australian.
You mean that colour has nothing to do with it? Can you please explain?
Law of legal fictions does not see colour. All persons are pieces of paper, nothing more, nothing less. First, let's have an English lesson before we proceed. In basic English, there are certain words that are nouns, and other words that describe attributes of the noun are adjectives. Pauline, you described yourself as Indigenous Australian. The noun here is Australian, so you said you were Australian.
Yes, Rodney, that is correct. And let me add, I am Indigenous. I was born here. I am native to the land. I am Australian as well. And I am Indigenous. Where is my land if not Australia?
We will address the noun first. When you say, you are Australian, you are saying that you, the woman, is being seen legally and politically through an Australian identity, an Australian person, an Australian citizen. They are all one and the same. You, the woman, Pauline, are not the identity, the person, the citizen. You are seen through the identity that is the created and owned by the Commonwealth of Australia. And yes, the legal identity is Indigenous to the Commonwealth of Australia. So technically, your Australian identity, just as all the other Australian identities, are Indigenous to the Commonwealth of Australia. The adjective in your statement is Indigenous. Colour, race, gender, like other descriptive words. Indigenous simply describes the noun Australian. It is still Australian, no matter what a descriptor used. A basic definition of Indigenous means originating or occurring naturally in a particular place. Your Australian person originates from the Commonwealth of Australia.
I was correct then.
Partially correct. The legal identity is an Indigenous Australian, but you, the woman, are assuming that you are the person. Please understand, you are not the person. You are seen legally through the person. Understand? Through the person. The question that no one asks is, where is the territory of the Commonwealth of Australia? If the pre-colonial Indigenous nations are the owners of their lands and territories, pursuant to laws and authority that are derived from a sovereignty that coexists with that of the Australian Crown, and there is no treaty between the co-existing sovereignties, where are the lands of the Commonwealth of Australia that your person is Indigenous to. Even the Australian identity that an Aboriginal man uses is an Indigenous Australian, but that legal identity, Australian person, Australian citizen, is the property of the Commonwealth of Australia, and just like your Australian person does not yet have a formal agreement with the pre-colonial Indigenous nation, upon whose territory the Commonwealth of Australia claims as its territory.
Wow, this is mind-blowing, Rodney. Maybe Senator Hewitt was correct when she said the Australians were intruders.
Yes, she was correct. There needs to be a treaty between these coexisting sovereignties to allow the Commonwealth of Australia to have its citizens present upon the territories of the pre-colonial Indigenous nations. A treaty the Yidinji way is the way.